Rev up your engines! Well, the GM CEO, Mary Barr, says they're going to reveal their plans how GM is going to beat all the rivals 2023 EV cars with their electric cars, right? With their Ultium battery technology. I guess they think they're going to do it by names. We'll call it Ultium, so it'll be the ultimate, right? There's a time when the name doesn't mean anything, and you got to have the product out there that works perfectly fine. Now, I laughed my butt off because just a short time ago, they said, we're not going to make the Chevy Bolts anymore. And now they're saying, well, they're still going to make the Chevy Bolts, right? I mean, this is a company that doesn't know up from down, left from right. They said, oh, we're not going to, that's our old technology. We're not going to use it anymore. Guess what? Now they said they're going to be using it again. And they're still going to make the Chevy Bolts. But those aren't Ultium based. They don't have the buzzword battery, right? Now they all jump on the bandwagon. They're trying to make GM into what they call now a technology company. They want to do software. They want to sell you software for your car that you got to keep paying for. The bean counters come out with, how can we make money? Well, go buy software. Get into software technology. Well, guess what? GM is a car company. It's not a software company. And if they think they're going to make money competing with the big software guys, they got another thing coming. And the hilarious thing, that you couldn't get more ironic than this. GM is funding this electric infrastructure they say they're going to be built through the sales of pickups and SUVs that run on gasoline and diesel engines. Rather ironic, The only thing they're making profit on are the pickups and SUVs that have gasoline and diesel engines in it. But no, they're going to electrify everything, right? I'm not holding my breath on this one. I mean, the BS that comes out of these people's mouths just is too much for me. Listen to this. Mary Barr says, are EVs a good business? The answer is yes. Well, what else are they going to say? They're throwing a bunch of money into it, right? They don't know if it's a good business. They haven't done anything in any large mass to see if it is a good business or not, if people are even going to buy the things. The problem with a lot of this stuff is people believe in something. It becomes a belief system, and then they think, oh, yeah, it's great business. Yeah, all the yes men, that underboard people, the undersecretary, the vice president, right? Oh, yes, that's and they all cheer along on the sidelines of, oh, yes, this is the way it's going to be, right? Well, all I have to say is enough of the talk. Let's see what actually happens when they sell these things in mass production, because all the previous electric cars GM has made have had massive problems. Most of them were failures. And all of a sudden, oh, they're not going to do that anymore. They're going to have the perfect electric car, right? Ha! That's all I got to say. Let's see what happens the next 3 or 4 years. They already said they weren't going to make any more of the Chevy Bolts, and now they say they are going to continue to make them. So looks to me like they're just patchworking it together. This hole here will patch that. But our future Ultium is going to save the world. I don't think so. Linda Huntel says my '09 Subaru Forester won't drive in reverse. They said I needed a new tranny, so it was changed. Now I have the same issue. Do you think it might be the same problem in the transmission? Well, I can just about guarantee it is. It went 4 years, now it went out again. And here's the problem that a lot of people don't understand. When they say you got a new transmission, it's never a brand new one. It's either one out of a junkyard or one that they have, in quotes, rebuilt. And the rebuilders don't do such a hot job. I'll tell you the truth about the transmissions are, if you got a tranny, let's say you drive it and it lasts 110,000 miles and you get it rebuilt. Well, generally it's going to break well before 110,000 more miles because they don't replace everything. The other parts are worn, there's more wear in the bearings, and it's going to wear out even faster. That's why on this rebuilt stuff, they generally only give you a year, maybe 2-year warranty because they know they're going to fall apart over time. And that's a Subaru '09. Automatic transmissions are weak to begin with. Either didn't fix it right or maybe just gave you a used one. I don't know what they gave you. They don't really sell brand new transmissions for those things. You're either going to go potluck with the junkyard or you're going to get it rebuilt. And it's only as good as somebody who rebuilds it. And like I said, if you get it rebuilt, it's a broken one that's been fixed, and it's not going to last as long as the original did. We started with all new parts because they don't put all new parts in. Probably is going out. It might be time to get another vehicle, and keep throwing money into it because, as you see, it's going to keep breaking. You fix it again, it'll break because it won't last that long. And then you're assuming the guys that did it even knew what they were doing. Devin8778 says, I get an '03 Pontiac Vibe cheap. Is it still a good car? With a 5-speed standard training, 180,000 miles for about $3,000. Family owned, passed down to the original owner's son. Knowing these are Toyota Matrix and Skies, could I still get it? Would it be okay? Do they have problems? They were Pontiacs. They're Toyota Matrixes. Some had some Pontiac sheet metal inside. stuff on them, but the engine, transmission, all that's Toyota. They're excellent vehicles, and especially you're talking about a 5-speed standard. You're not dealing with an automatic transmission that may eventually wear out. Now, I've seen the Matrix and Vibes with automatic transmissions have 300,000-400,000. They're still going, so they're not like they had bad automatic transmissions in them, right? I'd buy it. I wouldn't have any questions about it. Have a mechanic check it out, because you never know. Could have been wrecked, flooded, who knows what could have gone to it. It might have all kinds of secret codes. Have a good mechanic like me put its machine on and tell you, yeah, it's a good deal, it's not a good deal. It takes us about half an hour with our scan tool to hook it up to the thing and tell you what kind of shape it's in. Juan Luis Jorge says, Scotty, what's the best year for a manual transmission Mustang? An older one. What you want to research is, do not buy a Mustang that has the manual transmissions that were made in China. A bunch of their 6-speed ones recently were made in China. Do research. If you find out it's got a Chinese-made manual transmission, do not buy it. They were garbage. I had a customer in Houston, and she liked racing hers, and she went through 3 of them. And when the 3rd one broke, she sold the car back to Ford. She said, well, they had to buy it under the lemon law. She says, I'm sick of this. You've replaced these transmissions. Come tow it back, and I'm suing you under the lemon law. And they bought it back from her. She got sick. They kept replacing them under warranty, and she said, this is garbage. And if they keep replacing the same part over and over big like that, you can sue them under the lemon law, and you'll win. So they just bought the car back from her. Just don't get the ones with the Chinese-made standard transmissions. Paul Daly says, Volvo, 5-cylinder, are they oil burners? Why? I had many customers with them, right? And you change that oil every 5,000 miles and use synthetic oil. Generally, they're not going to burn any oil. But as any other car, if you did not change the oil correctly and use high-quality oil, the engine will wear and it will burn oil. I'll give you a perfect example. Guy last year brought me a Lexus, a 6-cylinder Lexus. He had just bought it for $8,500 at a Lexus dealership. It started running weird, so I brought it over here and I pull out the spark plugs. They're all coated with baked carbon, meaning it's burning oil. Then the oil burns into carbon and covers up the spark plugs, and it was running bad. So I told him, I said, you got an oil burner now. Even though it was a Lexus, it was only 6 years old. The previous owners, and it had like 110,000 miles, hadn't changed the oil enough, and they ruined the engine. Now, Volvos weren't badly built cars. They were European cars, so the parts cost a fortune. The mechanics that work on European cars are generally absolute crooks and just rip off their customers. But the vehicles themselves, when they were building the 5-cylinder gasoline engines, were pretty good. You got to maintain them like anything else. Justin G says, Scotty, should I get a Ford Escape 2012 with 75,000 miles or 2011 Honda CRV with 125,000 miles? I would take the Honda hands down. I have customers with Honda CRVs, 325,000 miles on them, and I've never seen a Ford Escape go over maybe 120, 130 before the transmission or the engine had serious expensive problems. Go for the Honda CRV. But of course, now, I haven't seen either vehicle. You have to have a mechanic check it out. Maybe the Honda was in a bunch of wrecks and you wouldn't want to buy that car. You'd want to look for something else. You always want to have them checked out. You can't trust anybody like that customer I just talked about. He bought a Lexus from a Lexus dealer in Tennessee. It was an oil burner. But big sticker on the side, as is, no warranty, so he had no recourse. You got to check them out before you buy. Trent Barker says, I got an 02 Corolla. 230,000 miles. I got it for $800. It burns oil. I just need it for a few months. You think it'll be fine? Oil is cheap. Now, if it burns oil, it's going to foul up the spark plugs eventually. So that's a Corolla. It takes 10 minutes to change the spark plugs. So every once in a while, pull out one of the spark plugs. And when they start to get coated with burnt oil, replace the spark plugs, right? They don't cost that much money. And as long as you add oil as it burns, you can drive those things. I've seen people drive those things that are burning a quart of oil every 500 miles. And 5 years later, the people are still driving them. So just make sure you fill up with oil, and when the spark plugs get clogged, change them. I used to do that in Houston for people all the time. More often with BMWs that burnt oil, I changed the plugs and add the oil. But if somebody has not maintained the Corolla right, and it is burning oil like that with 230,000 miles, just keep adding it and change the spark plugs every once in a while. Haji says, were the hippies 60 years ago more annoying than the greenies of today? Well, I would say no, because the real hippies just stayed to themselves. Their whole thing was they wanted to tune in, turn on, and drop out. I mean, they wanted to drop out of society. They're not like the greenies who are trying to control society and tell the woke people you got to be this way, you can't use these words. The hippies didn't care. Real hippies were opting out of society. They weren't opting into society at all. Weren't that many real hippies. There were plenty of people with long hair and stuff, and they might have pretended they were hip, but they weren't real hippies living in a commune somewhere. And most people found out that living in a commune was kind of a pain in the butt after all. They all went away. They tried commune living in the 1800s, United States. States, and most of those failed too, you know, with less technology, and they get grumpier when things don't work out. But I have to say, the hippies themselves weren't. They were opting out of society. The greenies aren't opting out of society at all. They just want to complain about everything. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.